Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Numbers. This is the show that goes beyond the data to explore the people, the stories, and the insights that really drive business success. I'm Dave Bookbinder. I am known as a business valuation expert and best-selling author, and I thank you for joining me today. And we talk about things that drive business success and stories behind it. Boy, do I have a good one for you today. So we're all living in a digital world, and we're all connected digitally, but many people are more disconnected than ever. Nick Adkins, who's the founder of PinkSocks Life movement, joins me today to explore how a simple act of kindness, gifting a pair of pink socks, you guys right here, became a powerful symbol of both human connection and leadership in communities and workplaces around the world. Nick, welcome to Behind the Numbers.
Hey, good morning. It's good to be here. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for having me on your show and letting me share the Pink Sock story with your audience. So I'm grateful. It's good to see you.
It is my pleasure, and I'm looking forward to you sharing that story. And I'm going to ask you to kick off the story by telling the audience a little bit more about you and a little bit more about the book that you wrote.
Yeah, well, thanks. Well, I tell you, I haven't always looked like this. I live in Portland, Oregon now. Most of my adult life, I lived in Nashville, Tennessee. I was a healthcare executive, a COO of a national healthcare company. And in 2010, I decided that I was going to pivot my life. And so we sold the company and I moved to Portland and with all the intentions of becoming a hippie, which is what I really got busy putting my energy into. And, along the way, I accidentally started a global movement about spreading love and kindness around the world, which is this PinkSocks Life movement. It's all built on this ethos of gifting. And we'll talk more about that as we go along here. So, but yeah.
Let's unpack it then, man. Let's ask you not to be so humble here, because, like you said, you started a global movement. So, do you remember the first time that you gave somebody a pair of socks? What happened in that?
I do. Yeah, I do. I tell you, we'll just dive right into the backstory. So, I moved out here and for a few years was doing great at being a hippie. Just riding my pink furry bike and giving people hugs and just enjoying it. And then I met a guy who reached out, wanted to have coffee, messaged me on LinkedIn, said, hey, I'm one of the original founders of WebMD. And, I see that you're busy being a hippie, but, I'd really like to get your advice on this startup that I'm interested in. And one thing led to another. I ended up jumping back in. I got to tell you this, Dave, because, this is kind of central to the story. When I moved out here, I guess about 2 months after I arrived, I met a guy that owns a kilt company. And he said, Nick, have you ever worn a kilt? And I said, no. And he goes, you want to come by? I go, yeah, man, I'm definitely coming over. So I went over there, and that was June of 2012. That was the last time I wore pants. So I only wear kilts, and I only wear their brands, Stumptown Kilts. Dave, day one of wearing a kilt, I discovered you got to wear fun socks, because you can't be that guy in the Bermuda shorts with the long, knee-high black dress socks. You can't be that geek. So I went and bought all the fun, funky socks I could find, T-Rexes, cupcakes, unicorns, rainbows, you name it. But the pair that got the most, I like your socks. Those are cool. Those are fun. That's funky. Were these pink knee-high socks with the black handlebar. So, back to this other story, I got involved with this health tech company that created the world's first open API for asynchronous video file management, the ability to record, store, and share video file in a healthcare setting, right? So healthcare has this privacy thing called HIPAA, and it's it's kind of important for data. And so anyway, we created this thing, but here we were in Portland, and kind of a not well known at the time, especially for healthcare tech. As all startups have to do, you have to get out and raise money. So we were flying down to San Francisco almost a few times a week, begging for money. One of my other co-founders and the chief technology officer, a guy named Andrew Richards, I said, Andrew, we've got to get on the radar here. I said, let me do some digging. So I jumped online and found this association of healthcare IT professionals. And they were having their annual conference, their Super Bowl event, if you will. 42,000 healthcare IT professionals in suit and ties were going to descend on the McCormick Center in Chicago for their annual conference, their get together. And I said, hey, Andrew, we're going to go to that event. And so I don't have a suit anymore. I gave it to Goodwill, and I'm going to have pants. So, and I'm not going to go buy some pants. So I'm going to do what I normally do, wear a kilt, and you just wear blue jeans and maybe a brew pub t-shirt. And I'm going to go buy us 100 pairs of these pink socks with the handlebar mustaches. He goes, oh yeah, I love those. Right. I said, I'm going to get 50 pairs. You put my little backpack, you put 50 pairs in your little backpack, and we'll go rolling in there. And every time somebody says, hey, what's your story? We'll just say, hey, I'm Nick and this is Andrew. It's good to see you. What's your name? And then, oh, Dave. And so just start a connection, a conversation. And then, so that was April. Hey, we're about to have a birthday, April 15th of 2015. So we're about to celebrate our 11th year of the first pair of pink socks being gifted. So 2015, think back, those were the days when Twitter was Twitter and Twitter was fun. And so I said, look, we're going to use this hashtag pink socks, always one word, always plural. And we'll gift people pink socks every time they meet us, because that's going to be the first thing that connects us is, oh, I like your socks. What's the story with those socks? I'm Nick and this is Andrew. We've got a pair for you. Boom. Let's get a picture and play on Twitter and use this hashtag. Well, the hashtag went viral at the event. It took over the conference hashtag. And the very first pair of pink socks, Dave, that we gifted that day in Chicago was to a gentleman named Eric Topol, Dr. Eric Topol out of San Diego. He's an author, famous physician, and one of the early social media gods, if you will, on Twitter with a gazillion followers. We went in that first morning and we're just coming in through the doors of the McCormick Center, and there's Eric Topol coming in with us. And I'm like, Dr. Topol, I'm like, whatever. He's like, hey, Nick, I really, like what you guys are doing, this company, you guys are building this thing. And I was like, hey, do you mind if I quote you on that? He goes, oh, well, I wish you would. And I'm like, composing the tweet, right there on my phone in front of him, because I don't want to mess this up. If I put this out there and I'm pissed off Dr. Topol, I'm going to be wrecked. So I go here, and he's like, yeah, he goes, send that. And I'm like, I go, cool. Can we get a picture with you? And we gave him some pink socks. And so our first pair of pink socks that we gifted was to Dr. Topol. And that picture and that tweet, I sent it, and literally 15 feet away, we walked through the doors onto the show floor. I looked back at my phone and I was like, oh shit, Andrew, look. Dr. Topol had retweeted the tweet. And I know I sound like a teenager right now telling the story, but I mean, Twitter was fun back then. And, grown-ups were having fun with it. And he never really, Dr. Topol he's his own content. He doesn't put anything out that's not his. So to get retweeted, was like, we're 2 steps in now to the conference floor, and people, handlers of, hey, we want you to come over to the Dell booth and meet our chief medical officer. Oh, we're from Walgreens. Come meet our CTO. That retweet from Dr. Topol instantly got us recognized, and we were getting pulled, Intel, Microsoft. I mean, just, we went from obscurity to, the talk of the town. And so Andrew and I, just met so many people that first event, 3 days that we were in Chicago there. And some of those very first, what we call them the OG, the original gangster pink socks, some of those original, OG folks are still friends today, still connections today. And, so we, it just turned out to be a thing. And we kept doing that for a year, all through 2015. We'd go to different events and we're like, hey, this is fun. We're winning Twitter and we're giving away pink socks and meeting all these people and, just having fun. Get to crash a lot of parties, right? Big names, big companies, and just had fun with it. So now it's 2016 and it's time to go back to that same event for the 2016 conference. That year it was going to be in Orlando, and I'm talking to Andrew on the phone and we're kind of saying, well, yeah, we've had fun all year with pink socks, and we, gifted a bunch of them away and met a lot of people. I said, hey, Andrew, we can't go back to the event. It was fun. We did it, but we got to do something different, and it's kind of like Elvis, right? There's young Elvis and there's fat old Elvis. Kind of thought, well, let's let pink socks go out as young Elvis. And literally, I'm saying those words. Somebody sends me a DM, a direct message on Twitter, and said, hey, Nick, did you gift some pink socks to somebody in the Netherlands? I'm like, no. Well, there's a guy in the Netherlands that had sourced pink socks on his own and who was gifting them to promote the work that he does with Alzheimer's, dementia care. And then another guy, this is in real time. Hey, Nick, did you send some pink socks to somebody in Wales? There was a guy in Wales that had found some pink socks and was gifting them to drive awareness for the work that he does with ataxia, which is a rare disease. Andrew, hang on. It was in that moment we knew that pink socks had gone organic. It became a thing. And I told Andrew, I said, get a bigger bag. We're going to take more pink socks to Orlando. And that's what we did. Yeah. And then in 2017, I got invited to do a TEDx talk in San Francisco. And it's at that point that it really took off. We added the puzzle piece on your pair of pink socks. You notice like there's now a puzzle piece. That's to represent pink socks connecting people all around the world, the power of connection. Every time you wear these, you're going to connect with people. You know, the instructions are on the back label. You got this, Dave. And it's never really looked back. And so over 300,000 pairs of these have been gifted all around the world.
Yeah. Really cool backstory. Really
amazing
cool
to get up and search the hashtag every morning and see, I think we've all migrated from Twitter over to LinkedIn at this point, but, to see people gifting each other pink socks and celebrating one another. And so from the very beginning, Dave, people said, well, what is it? I said, what does it mean to you? And they would tell me what it means to them. And I'd say, that's exactly what it is.
Right.
And so we never tried to define it. We wanted the definition to be unique and individual for each person. So as we became a nonprofit, or a 501c3, we began gifting socks to other nonprofits to help promote the work they're doing. So we've got this huge stage on social media that we built. Come up and play on it, and we'll help amplify your message. Whether it's helping people with supplies for homeless people in San Diego, or women's shelter in Denver, or feeding hungry children in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, on and on and on. Let's send you some pink socks. Excuse me. And as you're doing your good work and you get out there on social media, use our hashtag and wear those socks, and the Pink Socks tribe around the world will see you and celebrate you and help support your mission. And that's what we've done. And so it's really a paradox, if you will. Our mission is made up of multiple missions, not just one. And by keeping it that way, it's kept it fresh. It's allowed it to grow. It's not defined in one corral. It's not siloed. It's a shared experience. It's a shared opportunity to connect and to cross-pollinate with other groups and individuals and organizations. And it's just been so much fun. And if you've read the book, thank you, that came out this past November, it tells the story of, a little more in depth of what I just told you there, the origin stories, but it's really a collection of heartspeak and reminders of how we all need to connect in real life, right? Stay connected. And how we, there's a couple of chapters in there about how we got involved with schools in the U.S., helping teachers teach kindness. And, I think you said it right at the beginning, in the opening here, that, all of us want to connect. And sometimes we, sometimes we confuse connectivity, we confuse connectivity with connection. They're different things. This is connectivity. What you and I are doing right now, we're using connectivity, this platform, to connect. But it's the act of connection that we all crave as humans. It's hardwired in our DNA. It's back here in our brainstem that we crave connection with other humans, other individuals. And these one-on-one moments that we have in line at the post office, on the bus, sitting on the plane, in line at the grocery store, on and on, walking down the sidewalk, all these opportunities to take your earbuds out, put this down, look up, and connect, and just say, hey, how's it going? How you doing? I'm Nick. Oh, good to see you, Dave. Those little magical moments are game changers every day. If we just allow ourselves, if we just give ourselves the self-permission and the space to do that, to connect, if we understand everybody wants to do it, all we have to do is do it. So really, the pink socks are just a facilitator, if you will, just the thing that helps spawn a connection.
Yeah.
Someone sees your pink socks or your Love More sticker, or maybe you're wearing one of our hoodies or a t-shirt or whatever. They say, hey, that's the message, or hey, I like those. That's the universe tapping you on the shoulder saying, put this down and connect. This is what you're here for. And every time you do that, it becomes easier. And, I often say, maybe pink socks aren't your thing. That's okay. Find what is your thing and lean into that. Maybe it's a hat, maybe it's a fun tie, anything, and go with that.
Really cool backstory, and I appreciate you sharing that, Nick. I want to try and get a little bit more color and flavor here to this conversation. And that's a great frame. But when you talk about the human interaction piece, what lessons have you learned about kindness and human interaction that you wish more leaders understood today?
Yeah, that everybody wants it. Dave, doesn't matter what sector the business is in, you can get the vibe of the organization as soon as you walk in the door, whether it's a large hospital system or a small family-owned printing business. As soon as you walk in, the first person that meets you at the door, at the front desk, is going to tell you the whole vibe of that organization, the culture, because it comes from the top. And so if you've got leadership, in the C-suite or the owner, if they're just not nice people, you feel that all the way through the organization. If you come in and everybody's cheery and happy and, helpful and service oriented and just feels good being there, that's a good indicator that the people at the top are really good humans. And also the kind of place not only you want to do business with, but you actually want to work there, be a part of this. And great leaders, they know this. Successful organizations know this. And, we're drawn to those places. And, come on. I don't want to be too hard on dentists, because it seems like they get kicked all the time. But the last thing I want to do is go to a dentist office where the front desk is, oh man, I don't need an angry dentist in there in my mouth, Nope, I'm good. I'll find another dentist.
Yeah.
But yeah, kindness, it's not a huge thing. It's not a heavy lift, right? It's the small things are the big things. We're not curing cancer here. Just opening the door for someone, just saying. My favorite is I go to the post office all the time because I'm always mailing pink socks out, and I find that the post office is really a good place to practice kindness, because routinely, there's always a line, and routinely there's that one person who's really losing their shit because the line's too long, or the person that's talking to the post office employees, telling them the whole life story or about their cats and paying with pennies. And, there's this person that's got to get back to work in line, and you're just, I usually, the person who's losing it, that's really the person I always connect with. So I just say, hey, how's it going? They're like, oh, I'm going to get back to work. I'm so busy. I can't believe. And I said, well, that lady, that she's probably, she may live alone. This is her one time to get out and talk to people. I said, why don't you just take my spot? You go ahead of me. And here, look, have one of these stickers, I go, what's your name? And he'll say, Joe. Hey, Joe, I'm Nick. Look, all we have to do is show up with love and kindness, right? Let's just keep doing that, and it'll all work out. Deal? And I give him a sticker and say, yeah, let's just do this. Let's love more. And it's something that simple, right? I used to give away socks to everybody. I always carried my little bag, but now I always make sure I've got these in my kilt if I don't have socks with me. And, this does the trick. It does the trick just as well as giving somebody a pair of pink socks, because the sticker and the pink socks, they're really just tokens. They're reminders, So this little gift is, once upon a time, I was standing in line losing my shit at the post office, and this guy in a kilt and pink socks and a big beard gave me this and reminded me what's important. Yeah. And we can all do things like that. And as I said, the more you practice these things, the easier they become, and it just becomes part of what you do.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about the post office example in your book. And one of the things I wanted to have you talk about a little bit is you don't walk up to people and say, "Nice to meet you." You say, "Nice to see you." And
Yeah.
it's a subtle shift, but I want you to unpack that for our audience.
Yeah. From the very beginning, uh, I started using those words. It's good to see you. Instead of it's nice to meet you. I mean, there's different energy in those words, right? So if I say, hey, Dave, it's really nice to meet you, or versus, hey, Dave, it's good to see you, different energy goes with that. Do you know there's people that go their whole lives, Dave, their whole lives in this dimension without ever having someone say to them, it's good to see you? That statement, that acknowledgement, that validation, those simple words, those are the gift. That's the gift. Someone telling you, it's good to see you. When I say that, when you say it, we all say it, it's an acceptance of the other person exactly as they are, without any judgment, without any biases, without any preconceptions. I don't know where you went to school, where you didn't go to school, where you work, where you don't work, how much money you have, how much money you don't have. None of that matters in that moment of connection. It's an opportunity for us to see ourselves in the other person. It's an opportunity to practice kindness and empathy and humanity and all the good things of life. And when we let go of what we think we know and we let go of all those biases and judgments, what we find in these moments of connection, of seeing each other, is we're all so much more similar, so much more the same than we are different. The media and algorithms and, oh God, they're just running nonstop to keep us divided and separated and, permacrisis, constant chaos and conflict. But the reality is, if we can just let go of that, if we can just put this down, come out of our minds and down back into our heart, yeah, our heart already knows the way. It doesn't need to be told the way by algorithms. The heart knows is that we are all in this together, that we're all part of something beautiful on this planet, and that love is the path, that it always has been, it always will be. And so we got to let go of this message of fear, right? So this love and fear coexisting in every now. And it's up to us to make a choice, an intentional choice. What do I want to focus on? Where do I want to put my energy? Love or fear? And the more you choose love, fear starts to become less and less. No matter how much you're getting fire hosed with it, practice staying in understanding that people that are like, get them away from their sides, get them away from their teams, and then we get one-on-one with, oh, hey, yeah, really, we all want the same things. Yeah, we're all, watching the flowers come to life, or watching, our kids or our grandkids play soccer, and we want to go have a pint with our friends, and on and on. There's so many good things that, as the label on the sock says, the world is full of good. When you believe it, you see it. Keep doing that. It's the lens that we look through, right? So what we focus on, that's what we're going to see. So if you stay focused on the shit all the time, that's what you're going to see.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break.
You're covering a lot of spiritual territory here that I've touched on a little bit on this show, because I'm a woo-woo guy too. And I talk about the universe tapping you on the shoulder. I've seen it and I've lived it and I've experienced it. So I know from what you speak. And for anybody who's listening and they hear you talking about love, and they were calling back to the beginning of the conversation where you said you were a successful hippie, they're saying, oh yeah, sure, he's talking about love. But I'm here to tell you, gang, I was recently a guest on a podcast called How the Deal Was Done, and the episode was called Love at Work. It was a special sub-series of the podcast. It's on M&A transactions, but love at work. And I was asked about love at work, and I said, I don't know how you can actually talk about love at work. That's not really an emotion with being at work or doing work. And when they started to unpack how they define love in the spirit of appreciation and gratitude, connection, doing the right thing, and all those other intuitive things, stuff that you've spoken of here, yeah, it's real, and it's a part of leadership. And I want to ask you how your movement and creating this connection and having all these conversations around the world has impacted you as a leader person.
Yeah. From the business side, if you go back to business school and you go back to your business school days and I say, well, let's do an exercise. Let's do a T account, right? So let's put two things at the top, and we're going to list things below it. So we're going to put love and fear. Now let's list attributes that you associate with love. Now let's associate with fear. See, it all comes back to love or fear. Whether it's, kindness, empathy, compassion, cooperation, anti-bullying, inclusion, all these things. Well, those are great things that fall under the love column. Anger, rage, shame, jealousy, all that stuff's under the fear column. You don't have to put this in a pivot table. This is not an Excel program here. Love is how we're wired. We come into this world, and then we get, depending on how we're nurtured, what we're taught is how we show up in life. And, I think one of the things I'm just so the happiest about that I've seen Pink Socks do is how we became involved with schools in the U.S. And we're now in 34 schools in 9 different states, pre-K all the way through high school. In fact, I just sent some Pink Socks to one of our schools in El Paso, Texas, PK through 8 school, the Bill Seibert School in El Paso. We just shipped them some new Pink Socks the other day. And what those schools are doing is typically on Monday, everybody wears the Pink Socks to school on Monday. Kids, teachers, school, bus drivers, the crossing guard, the cafeteria people, everybody. And they're all wearing their Pink Socks. And each grade level has a class period that day where they teach the attributes of kindness. That's what they call their social emotional learning curriculum. Wow. What's the ROI on a pair of socks over the continuum of a kid's life, right? Let's say a little second grader this year, they're wearing their Pink Socks, and in each week they're learning these attributes of kindness, compassion, cooperation, empathy, etc. Right? That they understand that we're all connected. And when, the ripple effect of that over the course of her life, not just for her, family, friends, town, state, country, the world, how that shows up for all of us. And I find it very just humbling to see these teachers using Pink Socks, or something we're just having fun with gifting, to take ownership of that and build a whole curriculum around it and share that with other schools. And when a school gets their Pink Socks, Dave, it's not like, oh, a bunch of old people came in and gave us these Pink Socks. No. They spend a week or two before, and the teachers have them doing all of these, art projects, with the mustache and the puzzle piece and posters about kindness. The cheerleaders are, do a kindness cheer routine that they put together, so they're ready. And then the day that the Pink Socks show up, they have a kindness pep rally. And it's really usually a pretty big thing. Local TV station will come because it's a feel-good story about, kids learning about kindness. But let's take a pre-K through 5th, an elementary school. How we do it is the 5th graders gift the Pink Socks to the 4th graders, and the 4th graders gift to the 3rd graders, and so on, all the way down. So there's this, from the very beginning, we're all in this together. And there's a sense of ownership. There's a sense of responsibility. They see that the older kids, and, so we started, our first school was in El Paso, Dr. Sue Shook Elementary in El Paso, Texas, pre-K through 5. And, now we've got kids that are in high school, and we do high schools. And so some of these original kids, they're in high school now, and we followed them to their, the principal said, okay, well, like when they come to our middle school, let's do the Pink Socks at the middle school. Great. And we'll definitely gift you Pink Socks for the middle school. And I'll save the rest of the story about the schools for the book. But, it's a very, super grateful that a teacher named Zelene Blancas, Miss Blancas in El Paso, was our first Pink Socks teacher. She's a first grade teacher. I hope your audience gets the book and reads more about her story. And so there would be no Pink Socks in schools without Miss Blancas. And we're very grateful for how she showed up with love and kindness and all the teaching of kindness that she did for her students.
Nick, I want to ask you one more question before I let you bounce here. Give you sort of the final word here for the audience, everyone who's listening today. They want to make a difference in somebody's life. What's one small action?
It, we've already said it. Today, right now, stop, take your earbuds out, put your phone down, look at somebody and just say, hey, how's it going? And
Be present.
they'll say, right, be in the now. Don't be in the past. Don't be in the future. Be right here, right now. And, the person's probably going to say, well, it's going pretty shitty, really. Or, I'm on the Titanic, or, oh God, when does it stop? Hey, I'm Nick. What's your name? And hey, Joe, it's good to see you. See where that goes. 9 times out of 10, that goes to a longer conversation. In fact, I encourage people to, hey, stay on the train another stop, get off and have some coffee. A lot of times people say, hey, do you got a minute? I go, yeah, absolutely. I got a minute. Listen, that person's about to share some heart speak with you. They're going to share a story that you need to hear and they need to tell. Oftentimes the stories are sad stories. My wife just died, or I just found out I've got cancer, or my son's in rehab. I mean, on and on, right? Human connection. So here's someone that you've never seen each other before, and now this person's sharing a story with you, and all we have to do is listen. Everybody's got a story, Dave.
Yeah.
Everybody. All
That
we
is
have to
true.
do is stop and listen.
Great message. Great message. This is a story of a movement. This is a story of entrepreneurship. It's a business story too. The life story. So many messages here. And I thank you for sharing it with us today, Nick. Tell the audience where they can learn more about you, how they can find the socks, the book.
Yeah. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Nicholas Adkins, Adkins. Easiest place to find Pink Socks is the website, PinkSocks.life, PinkSocks.life. That's the website. It's also the Instagram account. Follow us on Instagram if you want to see a bunch of happy, smiley people wearing their pink socks around the world. And when you do get your pink socks and you start gifting pink socks, make sure you tag us on Instagram so we can see and celebrate your happy, smiley face and what you're doing in your community. It'd be good to see you.
Awesome. Nick, thanks so much for joining us today on Behind the Numbers.
Thank you, Dave.
And thank you out there for tuning into Behind the Numbers. I really appreciate your support for this program. Just a quick reminder, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Until next time, I'm Dave Bookbinder reminding you that the numbers tell the story, but the people bring it to life. Take care, gang. We'll see you next.